This is Theodore at Lies of the Devil. Go to liesofthedevil.com. We're at the front line in a spiritual warfare. My name is Theodore Valentin, and me and my wife, we are traveling America, evangelizing and waking people up to the saving grace of Jesus Christ. We literally are shocking the conscience of people and ripping souls away from Satan and delivering the souls to Jesus Christ. Shock and awe people. That's what it is. Military style via Christian gospel sharing. It's essentially what we're doing. And this documentary, I want to talk about the soul. What is a soul? Okay? What did God mean when he breathed life into us, when we have a living soul? And then I'll talk about, I'll touch just a little bit on spirit, which is outside of the realm of what we can study in science. And I'll segue that into why we need to protect our soul. Okay? And then talk about just kind of the weird propaganda, break down propaganda so that you guys can see what that looks like, how it affects yourself, and how it actually can mold who you are. But really, it comes down to your soul. What is it? Okay, we're gonna go into Genesis 1, chapter 26. And God said, "Let us make man in our image." When God says, "Let us make man in our image," what is he talking about? He's talking about Jesus Christ. Okay, Jesus Christ was there in the very beginning. Really, the first Adam. Okay, because Adam was perfect when he was in the Garden of Eden. He was a perfect human being. He knew good only righteousness, and he knew God, and he was very close to him. And then the falling away. Once Eve bit of the tree of good and evil, but Adam is the second Adam. The first Adam was Jesus Christ, God. Okay. But that's for another documentary. And let them have dominion over fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over cattle, etc., over all the things of the earth. And then here's where it says that the Lord, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. What makes man different than the animals? Well, it's because it's our complexity. We're incredibly complex. Even amoebas, even the tiniest of bacteria is very complex. It's got like I think it was last time is like 400 mechanisms that are supposed to work, that work. If one mechanism of that piece of machine, that little amoeba, that little bacteria, whatever you want to get down to, okay, if it doesn't have the right mechanisms, the right machinery to work, it won't work. You can only imagine how complex man is. My wife is a nurse, and she knows, okay? Now, think of a mousetrap, okay? If the mousetrap doesn't have everything to work together, it doesn't work at all. I think there's 5 components to a mousetrap, okay? There's the wooden plate, there's the actual hammer, the spring, the hammer, and then the latch that holds it shut. And I believe the wood plate, the spring, the hammer that closes down on the mouse, and the latch that keeps it in place, and then I believe the little mechanism that once they touch it'll. So if it doesn't have all those components, it doesn't work. And it's the same thing with the human body. Now, let's get right into this video. And it's just going to kind of explain what the brain is and how it really functions in its complexity.
Breathing. They also form intimate connections with the new brain, the cortex. Though less than a quarter-inch thick, the cortex is the brain's crowning glory. Among its roles, the cortex is our reality check. It filters and orders the outside world for us and allows us to see, touch, hear, and speak. The cortex is also the human thinking cap. All our plans, thoughts, and ideas originate in this layer. The cortex is packed with nerve cells. About 2/3 of all our neurons operate here. A piece of cortex tissue no larger than a pinhead can house 30,000 of these cells. Each neuron has a job: to communicate with other neurons. The brain works by forming networks among these cells. The long spiny branches of the networks create a neural forest. A closer look reveals that a tiny gap, called the synapse, separates their branches. This is where a message passes from one neuron to the next. The message comes from here, small sacs that store chemical molecules.
Okay, so essentially what it is, your brain is an amazing muscle. Okay, it's an amazing design by the Lord Jesus Christ, by God. Okay, and evolutionists will try to say that, oh, the brain has evolved over the years from a small fish who, you ever seen a fish in its brain? I haven't, but I'm sure there's really nothing there. It formed from a fish to an amphibian, little, frogs and whatnot, little salamanders, and it was just a little tiny pebble, and the lesser form of animals, okay, the dumber animals have more, their brain's not as complex, it's very smooth, it's really nothing to it. And then as you get from an amphibian to a reptile, the brain gets more complex, and then from a reptile to a mammal, out of apes, then the brain is, so our brain evolved over time, which is utter nonsense, absolutely crazy. Okay, they don't know what makes the neurons in your brain fire off, your neurotransmitters. They have no idea. They don't know where that electricity comes from. And that's essentially what a soul is. It is electricity. Where did it all derive from? Okay, I'm going to kind of explain using the sun how the human body works and the soul works. Okay, so it all derived from someplace, and that is God, by breathing life into all the animals and then into man, who is made in God's image. So we're not animals, we're complex beings. Just like animals, how God used the different substances and the different bone structures and whatnot, he used the same designs over and over and over again, but man, what's different for man than all the other animals is that our soul is able to have a spirit and dwell in us, which we can't see, okay? A spirit to indwell in us, and that we can actually, our brain, we have consciousness, and we can actually think about the things that we're talking about and think about the things that we want to talk about. And I mean, our brain is amazing. And later on, I'm going to get in the documentary, it says that they have to use like 1,000 laptop computers, and even that wasn't able to compute enough information that the human mind can. So they want to build supercomputers, and they're trying to base it off of here. And anyway, I won't get too far into this whole thing, but that's essentially what a soul is. It's electricity, and what you do with your soul eventually becomes what your spirit is, or what can indwell in you. Let's go into this article right here. I want to break down the brain and how amazing it is. So you have the forebrain, you have the midbrain, and you have the hindbrain. Let's go from the bottom to the top, okay? The hindbrain is mainly to do with basic life processes of the body and controls many automatic physiological processes. It consists of the cerebellum, pons, and medulla. The medulla controls heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, and basically the cerebellum coordinates balance of fine muscle movements. The pons coordinates the hindbrain with the midbrain and forebrain. So the brain, the lower part of the brain, okay, your brain is, you got this right here, but it also comes down to the spinal cord, okay? And the lower part of your brain controls your major organs, okay? I'm looking at my wife to make sure that I'm accurate, okay? But it controls the lower parts of your body, okay? Now, the midbrain consists of the tegmentum, and reticular formation. The midbrain coordinates sensory information with simple movements, as in eye-hand coordination. So it's funny, the people that are all into alchemy and the Eye of Horus and all the ancient Egyptian type stuff, they say the midbrain is what fires off creativity and the actual what makes your third eye open up so that you can see things. Well, no, it directs your eye. It directs these eyeballs in your hands and your feet. That's what it directs. It doesn't direct anything spiritual whatsoever. So, I mean, that's insane, right? Off the top of your head, that's just kind of like, doesn't even make sense. Why do you guys believe that stuff? Now, the forebrain, the very top part of the brain, this is what forms creativity, makes you think when you're trying to solve math problems, where a lot of the neurons are at, right? That you just saw in that video. 2/3 of them are on the cortex of the brain, the forebrain. The forebrain is the most evolved part in the brain. Evolved. It consists of the cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus, part of the limbic system. The thalamus is a relay sensor, like a telephone switchboard. All sensory signals from the sense organs are relayed via thalamus to appropriate parts of the brain. The cerebrum is responsible for all intelligent functions such as perception, decision-making, and planning. So that's how God created our brain, okay? And that's the consciousness part of us, the electricity that makes everything pump. Your heart pump, everything. That is the electricity. That is what we would call a soul, okay? Now, there's two things you can do once you realize you have a soul, okay? You can choose good, and that is to worship God, okay? Worship God and indwell yourself with the Holy Spirit, okay? Or the second thing is you can worship Satan, the creation more than the creator. That's really what this life is all about. Okay, that's the spiritual warfare everybody faces. Okay, and unfortunately, a lot of people are praising Satan and they're worshiping the creation more than the creator. All right, and whatever you feed your brain, that's what your soul becomes, and whatever your soul becomes is whatever it opens up for spirits to move in and to manipulate you. Okay, so I'm showing you guys the soul, the actual physical anatomy, an explanation as to what life is, okay, consciousness, the soul, and that soul, there's another dimension we can't see. It's called spiritual warfare. That's what our ministry is all about. That's a spirit is then able to indwell in a soul and manipulate who you are. So let's explain another way. If you delve yourself into the Creator in the Bible, what God says right here, you delve yourself into this, you'll become more learned in God and a better person, more righteous. Not that we have any righteous, we're like, our righteousness are like filthy rags. Anything that we do, our works, okay? But becoming a better person and having the Holy Spirit indwell in us, and therefore we can resist evil. We can resist evil things and actually stop from sinning in a lot of ways. If you want to work on it, if you work at, it's not work-based salvation, but you'll want to stay away from sin. Or you can feed your mind evil and violence and cursing and all that satanic stuff that's out there, and you will then open up your spirit for demon activity and Satanism and satanic, it's satanic activity. Okay, and I know that might sound foolish to some of you people who aren't saved, but as we go into this documentary, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I want to see. So First Thessalonians 5:21, prove all things, hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil. That's why God tells us specifically, okay, to stay away from it. So let's get into human biology. Science they always try to have an explanation as to why things work. So this is what they say makes the electricity in your brain. Imagine a sphere of plasma membrane that represents a simple neuron. For starters, we assume that this membrane is bare lipid with no membrane activity, with no membrane associated proteins. Because of the hydrophobicity of the bilayer, charged particles cannot diffuse through the membrane. So it's just a lot of chemistry, basically saying that these atoms, sodium, potassium, chloride, and calcium in your body, they're different channels in your brain that cause electrode-type chemical gradients, and those, it's basically fusion, okay? and I'm going to show you what, like, basically what the sun does, and that these different electrochemical gradients cause membrane potential and voltage gated sodium channels and potassium channels and this, that, and the other, and that's what causes action potential. So instead of giving God the glory, who told us that He breathed life in us, they want to break down the sciences that really God created. Everything man studies, God created. Okay, but they want to study that and go, okay, well, the body has sodium and it has chloride and it has all these elements. You know, when you eat food and you take certain nutrients, that'll help your cells, and then your cells, you know, and your white cells will go out and fight bacteria and infections, and that's why we have all these medicines. And so they're doing the same thing with the brain, and all they're going to find out is that all of this is way too complex for them. They can try to understand it, but it's way too complex. And I mean, they're trying to, and we're going to show in the documentary, but these people just sound so foolish. It goes to show that God created everything, but they just can't, they don't want to believe that. They don't want to believe that God created everything, and so they'll just keep dissecting it. Well, here's the thing. You can take a line, you can take a string, and you can keep cutting it, right? What these people are doing, just keep dissecting this knowledge, keep cutting it. And people would think that you can keep cutting these strings smaller and smaller and smaller into little smaller parts. Actually, once it gets down to a certain length, and it's like an atomic particle, you try to cut it into a subatomic particle, there's nothing there. It doesn't exist anymore. And so all they're doing is all this information that they're gathering, it's just channeling it all to really giving God the glory for the creation. Because even then, they still won't figure it out. Hebrews 11, verse 3. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Let's go into this video and let's just show the awesome power of the sun and how these guys are trying to equate. Actually, before we do that, let's look at the beautiful layout of the nervous system and how we're only talking about the brain. I'm not even going to get into the nervous system, but the nervous system in itself is miraculous. It sends signals to your spine to say that when you have pain, and then that pain gets registered into your brain. I mean, it's just a beautiful system. But here, I'm just going to keep quiet here and let the guy explain.
Who takes action by stimulating the appropriate muscle or gland. This motor division of the peripheral nervous system can either be somatic, like the contraction of a leg, or autonomic, like the contraction of the heart. In parallel, the sensory division of the peripheral nervous system detects stimuli with the help of sensory neurons and sends signals to the central nervous system, which then decides whether or not an action should be taken. If the stimuli indicate that the body is in danger, for instance a hand on a hot stove, the signal only passes through the spinal cord and is immediately sent to the muscles. These reflexes happen in a fraction of a second. However, if the body isn't in direct danger, the signal passes through the spinal cord and goes to the brain, which eventually decides what to do.
You see that? So you have your brain, which is the central nervous system attached to your spine, in the spine, and then you have the peripheral, I believe is what it's called, the other nervous system that are these, like your neurons, stretched out across your body. And whenever you feel something, it sends that impulse, that electrical impulse, through the nervous system into your spine, into your brain, and then your brain figures out, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep my hand on the stove? You know what I mean? And people call it the fight or flight syndrome, right? They always try to devoid the word of God. And they want to say, oh, well, we evolved from monkeys, and actually they had a flight and fight system in them. And when they saw a bear, maybe the stupid monkeys just got ate up by the bear. But then as soon as they evolved, after hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, they figured out, wait a second, I'm starting to get the idea that I don't like my ancestors being eaten by bears, so maybe I'm going to run away next time. And that's how we started evolving. And then we figured out we don't like being rained on, so we might start building houses. That took another couple 100 million years. And then we figured, well, now that we've built houses, we might want to furnish those houses. You know, we might. I don't want to sit on the ground anymore, so I'm going to build a couch, and that took another couple 100 million years. You know, it's just people are ridiculous. But you know, anyway, that was just trying to be goofy. But that's just how these people think. So I mean, their explanation for everything is time. If they give it enough time, it entertains people. Wonder what's out. If it entertains, it's like entertainment, and people will start believing it, even though it's just totally ridiculous. Here, now I want to get into the sun. Okay. Watch this and how beautiful the sun is, and then I'll compare this to the human body and how the soul works.
If we could open up the sun, we'd see layers of dense hydrogen gas, hundreds of thousands of miles deep. And at its center, the core, the sun gives birth to light. Forged in one of the most violent reactions in the universe, nuclear fusion.
The specific nuclear reaction that powers the sun is fusion. Fusion of hydrogen into helium. You take two hydrogen atoms, you ram them together, and what's left over is a helium atom.
It takes immense amounts of heat and pressure, generated by the invisible hand of gravity. The sun contains 99.8% of all the matter in the solar system. That's a lot of mass. All that mass pulls the sun together with unimaginable gravitational force.
But with gravity crushing things down, things get close enough together, and nuclear fusion happens.
In this nuclear compactor, hydrogen atoms slam together 100 million quadrillion times each second.
So God says that He formed He formed the sun, and he formed the light and the dark and the moon, and He holds them in place. Okay, that's what God says. And instead, they want to suggest that that a Big Bang occurred, right? And that they can figure it out through dark matter and studying the science. But really, it's God that holds it in place. God formed that. There's no way that could have come from nothing. I mean, think about that, people. So let's read this article about the sun. So there's different layers to the sun, right? There's the core, there's the radiative zone, there's the convective zone, and then the corona. And that's the outside of the transition radio, the corona of the sun, which is the outside of it. Now, what happens at the core? Basically, let's see here. Where is it about the TNT? Oh, here we go. This is amazing. To put that in perspective, when the hydrogen is crushing into each other, so the gravity of the sun, the core of the sun, kind of like the gravity here on Earth, the core of the Earth, it's holding everything in place. And again, flat Earth, spherical Earth. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into that. But the sun, so the core is full of a bunch of this hydrogen plasma, just this hot core. And it's also where the gravity is crunching down everything. So all these hydrogens are floating around the core, and they're constantly going boom, 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 boom. And that is like a ton of TNT, okay? I don't even know how much, just an amazing amount. To put that into perspective, that is the equivalent amount of 9.192 times 10th to the 10th power megatrons of TNT per second, or 1,820,000,000 SAR bombas, the most powerful thermonuclear bomb ever built. Okay, so man's nuclear bombs that they've built, think about 1,820,000,000 of them going off each second at that core. That is extremely powerful. Where does that energy come from? Don't you think that it would exhaust itself at some point? Don't you think that, there would be enough hydrogen atoms it would exhaust itself? I mean, I know the thing is huge, but come on, think about that. That is a lot of energy. Okay, well, God put it in place. So let's just think of the soul, okay? That is the soul. The core of the sun is the soul, okay? All this electricity that's being produced right here, that's the soul. Think of it like that, okay? Then you have the radiative zone. And this is basically a layer so that all the helium doesn't emit all the time, everywhere, because then it would just be disastrous, right? This layer is hot and dense enough that thermal radiation is all that is needed to transfer the intense heat generated in the core outward. Basically, this involves ions of hydrogen and helium emitting photons that travel a short distance before being reabsorbed by other ions. Okay, so you have us that has electricity. Where did it come from? God. Okay, that's the core, the soul. Okay, and then you have the outer part of us, which is our body, our flesh, our blood. Okay, and that's kind of like, what your eyes, I'm going to show you later, your eyes are attached directly to your brain. Okay, so your soul is basically between your brain and your eyes. Okay, it's a thin layer of electricity. You don't know where it's coming from. And the radiative zone is the area between your soul and your eyeballs. Okay, and then the outer layers is what you can actually absorb into your body. Okay, or what you emit. Really, what you emit is, I'm not into the whole aura thing and the new age stuff. It's just I'm trying to give you guys an illustration, but really I could say it this way: how you act to people, what you put out there, they call it karma. The Bible doesn't say that. The Bible says to be good to everybody, otherwise you'll turn yourself into lasciviousness, lascivious brute beasts. But if people were better to each other, it actually would change our environment, the culture. Okay. But anyway, I don't want to go that route. But everything outside of here is then absorbed in the first part of the outer part of the layer, or what our eyes absorb. And so I hope that gives you guys an understanding. And the convective zone, this is the sun's outer layer, which accounts for everything beyond 70% of the inner solar radius. Here, the temperature is lower than in the radiative zone, and heavier atoms are not fully ionized. As a result, radiative heat transport is less effective, and the density of plasma is low enough to allow convective currents to develop. Okay, so do you understand? You understand the layers, the different layers of the sun? And then the photosphere. Lastly, this is the photosphere, the visible surface of the sun. It is here that the sunlight and the heat are radiated and convected to the surface, propagate out into space. So we got the core, okay? And then we have the second layer, which is the radiative layer. That's our body. And then you have the, really, you would call it the photosphere / convective zone, okay? And really, I guess you would call the skin and the eyes absorbing whatever is coming into your soul. Okay? And I'm going to explain why that is important and how that actually can rewire your brain. So these scientists are always trying to figure out, okay, what is the mind? What is consciousness? Okay? This is a really neat video that explains just how intricate our mind is.
Quantum mind theory is really a collection of different theories. However, they all argue aspects of quantum mechanics, like superpositions and entanglement, play an intricate part in the brain and how we process information and make decisions. Most of the theories revolve around the basic premise that deep inside neurons, there are tiny structures called microtubules, which are made of proteins called tubulins. Since tubulins are proteins, they contain amino acids called tryptophan. On a molecular level, tryptophan at its end is made up of 6 carbons bound together in a form of a ring. This ring consists of electrons that oscillate from side to side of the ring. Because of the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics, the actual location of these electrons is more properly described by a wave function, or in other words, is a cloud of possible locations. Because these tryptophan molecules are close to each other, one tryptophan ring can share an electron cloud with another tryptophan ring, and so on and so on. Sharing of the electron clouds causes the displacement of the tryptophan into a superposition of 2 states. It's one microtubule. Different pathways could exist in a superposition, and this results in large-scale coherence among thousands of tryptophan molecules on any given microtubule. The 2 requirements for quantum computation are superpositions of 2 states, which allows molecules to represent qubits. What this means is the brain contains a lot of water, and the random motion of water seems to destroy quantum coherence and produces decoherence, and thus it is claimed the brain is too wet for quantum computation to occur. But these objections are invalid for 3 reasons. First, the objection is based on a mathematical miscalculation, assuming the superposition needed to be much larger than what.
Okay, so essentially what's inside you have these neurons that they see on the outside, okay? And inside the neurons are these, what we would call like fiber optic, okay? And fiber optics is essentially a clear plastic tube which light emits through, okay? But these fiber optics, it would be like if you took a string of fiber optic files, fiber optic layers, okay? Like, so you, like a Twizzler, okay? So you take like a Twizzler, okay? And each one of those Twizzlers is a fiber optic wire, okay? So you take the Twizzler and then you start chopping it up, okay? So you've got so not only do you have an intricate wire system with just the regular Twizzlers, but now you start chopping it up, okay? And then you've got different ways that electricity, instead of going through those tubes separately, now they can go through the different, does that make sense? It goes through the different layers of Twizzlers, and that's what that graphic was showing you, the different lightning bolts that go off in different directions. So the electricity that's being released into your brain before it fires off the chemicals that go into the synapses that kind of form ideas that we have and whatnot, okay, your memories, your visuals and stuff like that. It's got like an amazing, it's like an infinite ways that it can fire off in different ways and different patterns. So instead of an animal that has a very basic brain, let's just take the Twizzler, okay? They have that little Twizzler, they might only have 3 Twizzlers, okay? Like that. And it's just really basic wiring systems, like a fish, okay, for instance. They might only have like one wire, a couple wires. And that's its basic system. That's its basic soul, the way that God configured it and then gave it electricity so that it could move, okay, and function. That's its basic system. And then you go, okay, there's an animal now, I don't know, let's just say an alligator that has, 4 different Twizzler systems, fiber optic Twizzlers, okay, and it's the best way I can explain it. And that in itself, then that has become a more complex thing. Well, humans, they got like tons of Twizzlers, okay? But then now they're chopped up and it becomes an even more intricate circuit board, okay, from these neurons that fire off in your brain. That is amazing, okay? That is a lot of electricity. That would be like the sun constantly, all that energy that it expounds. It's the same thing with humans. And that's why we're more complex than all the animals. And we have a consciousness. We're able to think about the things that we're thinking about and then reflect on the future and in the past and store up memories. Okay, we're like amazing supercomputers. You can only imagine what Adam was. You can only imagine. So anyway, that's that. I hope that explains to you guys. I want to show you how a drive works. Okay, so that's the way our brain is wired, okay? Now, that doesn't even talk about how it stores information. That doesn't even talk about how it stores information. Now, this device that I'm going to show you guys, it's a hard drive like you would buy at the store, okay? Like a thumb drive or really an external hard drive, the bigger ones, and how it collects information, how it stores data. And this is a very basic, it's a brilliant architect. It's brilliant engineering. Whoever came up with it, whoever did all this, whoever did computers, it's brilliant. But this is just a very basic form of technology, okay? And I'm going to show you how we are so much more complex than just the computers that we have that we think are amazing.
She's not allowed too much ham anyway.
It's not going to move out yet.
That's quick. Do you see how fast that moved?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Okay, how did it move that fast? Well, it basically the arm that moves where the actual arm that moves it uses magnetism and electricity. Okay, I would love to like pound these things open and break them up and look at them, but my life now has changed. I would love to have studied all this stuff, but anyway, so the electricity and the magnets that move that thing so quickly is because it's basically like floating. You know what I mean? It's really a beautiful. It's just a beautiful It's beautiful. So, but the actual arm, it's a little sensor, like another magnet strip that is, well, I'll just let the video explain it to you, but that thing is moving that fast 22 times in 0.25 seconds that they had to slow it down and it was still too fast. Okay? That's just a piece of machinery. That's not like our brain. Like while you're watching this, your brain activity is going off the charts, and they say you only use like a third of your brain, like 10%, 13% of your brain. That's what they say. That's actually not true. People use 100% of their brain. They just don't use it all at once. Okay? But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm going to show you the internal workings of how a hard drive works. And it's incredibly complex. It just gives you a glimpse as to how amazing God designed us.
Electricity and magnetism exist together, and when a current is run through a wire, there is a corresponding orthogonal magnetic field. So how we are using that here is that there is a coil, it's actually hidden under this magnet. Under this plate there's a magnet, and below the magnet is a coil. The driving force of the current, or conversely the magnetism, forces the back end of the coil to move in one direction or the other. Right here we see the motor that spins the media. When the drive is powered off, the heads are resting on this ramp. The arm swings off so that the heads are preserved and they're not touching the media or anything. If I want to write or I want to read, in other words, if I want to record a picture or if I want to bring out a picture file, the arms swing out over the disk and the heads are flying over the tracks, as we call them. So it goes to a very specific radius, and the drive will be given an address to go. Let's pretend that was the radius, that was the track that contains the picture or part of the picture. That is the file that we said, please show me this picture. The data is recorded in magnetic domains that are very small surface area on the disk.
So these 1 and 0s, like when you're watching this video, it's transmitted as 1 and 0s through the digital, through a server, okay? And then those 1 and 0s give information to a system as to how to interpret the color of my skin or whatever is captured. Like right now, whatever's being captured is being uploaded to a processor, and that processor is rendering it into a piece of information of 1 and 0s onto a little tiny chip, and then that chip is going to be stuck into the computer. That'll be uploaded as 1 and 0s, okay, to a YouTube server, and then the YouTube server will retransmit those 1 and 0s into a process through their servers, through their encoding system. And right now we're using a coding system of, I think it's the codec is H.264, and that's just a software that somebody built to read the 1 and 0s of different video programs. Anyway, so it'll take that code and then it'll retransmit it and upload it for you all to see. Okay? And these things, these supercomputers, are a fragment as to what we can do as human beings. All right? I just wanted to give you an idea. Like when DNA is being built, okay, these little, they call it 99% of the DNA is junk DNA. No, it's because they can't figure it out because it's too complex. But I don't know the exact mechanisms, but essentially the way that this hard drive, the way that it's reading information, how the little sensor goes above the hard drive and it reads the 1 and 0s and whatnot, that's basically like DNA and how it structures the amino acids and the double helix, okay? How it cleans it and stuff, like reads information in your body. I mean, it's just truly amazing. So when you look at electronics, a lot of, these scientists and these physicists, they look at what's going on in life. See, men study what God created. That's it. Only they study it and they pervert it, and instead of using technology for the good of man, they always use it for something wrong. Somebody always uses it for evil, and that's what Satan is using with people and the love of money. Look up Amazon, how Amazon's going to take over the world. Can you grab the DVDs, please? Amazon, Jeff Bezos, the guy is extremely hungry for money. He put ma and pa brick mortar stores out of business, that were selling books. He put them out of business, and you know what he's going to do? Now he's going to open up mortar stores where he can sell books. Anyway, I don't have it here. It's all about money. That's what is people. That's God says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. That's what it comes down to. The love of tangible things. And so that's what they're going to be doing with electronics. But anyway, I digress. Let's go on here. What is consciousness? Any parent can vouch for this, for just how complicated things become when a child starts reaching the age of hard questions. We've all been there. Why is the sky blue? Because molecules in the air scatter blue light more than other colors. Where do babies come from? Is there a God? That kind of thing, these questions. If someone asked you to explain consciousness, could you do it? Very, very smart people have spent their entire careers trying to understand the answer to that very question. So there's different ways of going about this, okay? There's perhaps the greatest debate has focused the distinction between dualism and physicalism. Physicalism holds that consciousness is entirely physical. One type of physicalism denies there is a problem at all. For folk in this philosophical camp, called identity theorists, the mental just as the physical, that is, the mental is nothing else than certain physical situation that obtains given certain arrangements of atoms. So these people are thinking that it's just, all it is animal instincts, essentially fight or flight syndrome, okay? That it's all just an evolution of your brain, and that people are just categorized. And actually, this is what they do in the public school systems. A lot of, you have the jocks, the guys that are all into sports. You got the jocks, you got the geeks, you've got the goths, and they think that that's how people are. That's just inherently how we organize ourselves, and that's just what the brain does. It's just compartmentalized and it's animalistic. Okay. Another theory is dualists. Dualists can further be distinguished into fundamental emergence and neutral monist groups. Proposed by Chalmers, fundamental property dualism holds that conscious properties are basic properties of the universe, similar to physical properties like electromagnetic charge. According to Chalmers, these properties can interact with other properties such as physical properties, but like fundamental physical properties, conscious properties are their own distinct fundamental entities. So again, all it is these people they love breaking apart what God has created, and then thinking that they're very intellectual. And honestly, it's great to read, it's great to study, and yeah, they're smart people to dissect it this far. But essentially, what it comes down to is that God gave us the electricity for all these things to happen. He gave us the soul for all this stuff to happen. Psalm 139:13. For thou hast possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. And then verse 15 and 16. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Okay, formed us out of dust. He breathed life into us, and we were from dust, okay? And dust will go back to. But our soul, depending if you're saved, our soul will have everlasting life with Jesus Christ. And that's what I'm hoping. If you're not a Christian and you're watching this, I pray to God that you end up asking God to give you the truth and ask him to save you and truly believe in him. Just ask God for the truth. Give us 30 days. We'll lead you to the truth, which is Jesus Christ, and then Jesus Christ will save you. 30 days, guaranteed. Hopefully less than 30 days. Okay? Verse 16, thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned. Then as yet there was none of them. It's basically talking about, I believe this is King David. Yeah, this is David, King David, talking, knowing that God created everything, and knowing that God, thank you for forming me. You knew me before I was in the womb. You knew me. You formed me, God. Thank you for that. Ooh, here we go. Now we're getting to the fun stuff. Okay, all right. Let's talk about the brain power. It's just, there's so much information that we can absorb. There's so much electricity within us, our soul, such a high abundance of it, that it takes tons of computers to just try to even transmit some of the information that we get in our brain. Let me rewind this and I'll let this man talk.
So now we have this Blue Gene supercomputer. We can load up all the neurons, each one onto its processor, and fire it up and see what happens. Take the magic carpet for a ride. Here we activate it, and this gives the first glimpse of what is happening in your brain when there's a stimulation. It's the first view. Now, when you look at that the first time, you think, my God, how is reality coming out of that? But in fact, you can start, even though we haven't trained this neocortical column to create a specific reality, but we can ask, where is the rose? We can ask, where is it inside? If we stimulate it with a picture, where is it inside the neocortex? Ultimately, it's got to be there if we stimulated it with it. So the way that we can look at that is to ignore the neurons, ignore the synapses, and look just at the raw objects appearing within the neocortical column. And it's these electrical objects that are holding all the information about whatever stimulated it. And then when we zoomed into this, it's like a veritable universe. So the next step is just to take these brain coordinates and to project them into perceptual space. Evolve the brain to see itself, which may be a first step in becoming aware of itself.
And, you know, with all of that, what you guys just saw, with all of that studying, they still don't know how it works. They'll never, I'm telling you right now, they will never figure it out. They will never figure out the soul. They will never figure out how the brain works. I mean, they can get an idea, but they will never figure out how you actually get images from a bunch of electrical impulses. They won't figure it out. They'll try their hardest. Saying that, okay, they're going to suggest, okay, Ghost in the Shell, order it online. If somebody's like into this tech stuff and they think that they're going to create robots and stuff, go online, get Ghost in the Shell, The Soul of Artificial Intelligence. It's based on the actual movie that just came out. But these people, they're going to say that when they create robots, that the robots have a soul. Okay, well, think about this. Where are you getting the electricity to pump through that robot in order for it to respond the way you want? They're doing it, well, who knows how they're going to get the energy to supply it, but they have to actually manufacture the energy to supply that robot in order to function. Whether it be through a battery that they plug into a 12 volt and let the battery charge itself, or look at the basic machineries we have now. We have gas. We have to use gas in order to fire off our engine in order for it to run, and jets and all that stuff. So they're actually taking the resources God has given us. They're taking the resources God has given us, and they're using it to run these machines. And then they're going to say that they're godlike, and that they can that robots that they create have souls. When in reality, all they're doing is creating, if this, do this. If this is not, if this, do this. If not this, then don't do this. They're just programming a robot. They're studying humans and how they interact on the internet. They're studying us and then programming the computer based on how we react. And then all they're going to do is plug in energy at that point and then say, aha, see, look at this robot. We created a soul. We are godlike. Anyway, it's all, go watch this documentary. It's all, I talk about all of it right there. So here we go. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3. For though we walk in flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty works through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Yeah. That's what Eliza the devil's doing. I love it. mean, because that's the thing. The flesh, you know, wisdom here on earth is not wisdom. You know, people that worship the creation more than the creator, they think they have this wisdom and intellect. No, they don't. Okay? That's why when man takes their thoughts and their imaginations and they bring it under the obedience of Christ, it's a totally different ball game. It's a more spectacular ball game. You know, you can do such great things for other people if we were to bring ourselves under the obedience of Christ. Oh, okay, let's not go that far. Let's talk about neuroplasticity, okay? Neuroplasticity is a science that is developing that talks about basically how the brain rewires itself. Neuroplasticity has become a buzzword in psychology and scientific circles, as well as outside of them, promising that you can rewire your brain to improve everything from health and mental well-being to quality of life. Nope, it's just pointing the finger to God, even though they're going to try to use it for new agey stuff. Just in case if you've managed to miss all the hype, neuroplasticity is an umbrella term referring to the ability of your brain to reorganize itself both physically and functionally throughout your life due to your environment, behavior, thinking, and emotions. Let's just go into the functionings of it. The 10 fundamentals of neuroplasticity. Change is mostly limited to those situations in which the brain is in the mood for. If you are alert, on the ball, engaged, motivated, ready for action, the brain releases the neurochemicals necessary to enable brain change. The harder you try, the more you're motivated, the more alert you are, and the better or worse the potential outcome, the bigger the brain change. If you're intensely focused on the task and really trying to master on something for an important reason, the change experience will be greater. What actually changes in the brain are the strengths of the connections of neurons that are engaged together moment by moment in time. Learning-driven changes in connections increase cell-to-cell cooperation, which is crucial for increasing reliability. So, essentially, now that we're jumping to this part of the documentary, this is why God says to guard your eyes. Guard what you feed yourself visually and through your senses. Guard that, because it becomes part of your soul. And your soul then goes into two directions. Either you worship Christ and you worship God, or you worship the creation and Satan and let him take over you. And you get everlasting life through Christ, through the obedience of Christ and him saving you, or you get hell by falling into Satan's traps. That's why we're exposing lies of the devil. Exposing lies of the devil, wolves in sheep's clothing, satanic propaganda to wake people up. Okay? We're not playing around. This is not a game. Proverbs 4:23, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it the issues of life. For out of it are the issues of life. Can you find one about guarding your eyes? I'm paraphrasing, but oh man, I love it here in nature. It's beautiful. I wish you guys could see. I'd get up right now and show you the camera, just the trees, the light coming from the trees. It's really just beautiful here. So I want to show you your eyeballs and why it's so important. Actually, no, let's go back to neuroplasticity. I forgot I had a video on that. And how, basically, I'll explain neuroplasticity to you guys in visually.
Many scientists believe that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road.
Do you understand that? Now, here's where I told you guys, your brain is literally, your eyeballs are literally connected to your brain. So whatever you feed your eyeballs, it tunnels through your brain and then it fires off a reaction. Okay? Can you see that? I think I have a video that talks about your retina and whatnot. Okay, so see this image right here that I'm showing you guys? So whatever visually is out there, your left visual field, your right visual field, your eye, it actually absorbs the light through your retina, okay? And then your retina basically narrows down that image, that light that's being captured, and actually it reverses it. It like turns it upside down. And then what happens is, and baby, you gotta tell me if I'm wrong on this, but what happens is you have rods and cones. So you have your eyeball, you have the retina that you see, the basically the clear outlining. Then you have that black hole you think is a black hole. Well, that actually captures in and it absorbs the light. And then as it narrows down into your eyeball, it actually overlaps into these rods and cones. And then the photons that you ingest really into your eye, it then releases molecules and different, basically just molecules essentially. It then releases that and basically, I mean, that's so hard to explain. But
the picture flips it upside down in your brain.
Yeah, but basically, after it hits the rods, and it absorbs it. It travels that energy travels through the cones, and then the cones release a molecule. Is that how it works, basically?
The rods are black and white, and then the cones are color.
Okay, so the rods are black and white, and the cones are color. Your eyeball is amazing, okay? Anyway, go look up more information, but it's attached to your brain. That's why it's so important to guard what you see, what you ingest in your eyes. The more violent movies you watch, the more violent you're going to get. People say, oh, violent movies don't create violent children, and, oh, video games where you're going killing people, that doesn't change. No, it dehumanizes people. It desensitizes them. Look what's happening in America. The moral degradation is off the charts. Here we go. Okay. So Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is the eye. Now, some New Age guru is going to be like, see, that's the third eye. No, it's not. He's not talking about that. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is the darkness? That's what you're seeing here today in America, the darkness. It's enveloping America. Psalm 101, verse 3, I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me. A froward heart shall depart from me. I will not know a wicked person. That's why you're supposed to mark and avoid people, okay? We went through it with Kent Hovind, okay? You guys have no idea who this guy is. If you don't know who he is, go watch a documentary, Kent Hovind, Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. The guy is a sociopath, okay? Here we go. Where's the Alex Jones one? Oh, here we go. Another one on Alex Jones of InfoWars documentary. Okay, Alex Jones is not the Christian everybody thinks he is. Okay, he's fooling Christians and he's rebel rousing and he's causing people anger and anti-government sentiment. And in fact, part of the anti-government stuff, we did a documentary on the religion of American Nazism not too long ago. Go watch that. Find out who the silver shirts are and how they work with it. They basically took Hitler's brown shirts and they created that here in America, and it was all anti-government. Don't pay your taxes. Don't listen to the government. Rebel against them. They're the synagogue of Satan, and it's so all of the sovereign citizen stuff that you see today, it's all based on neo-Nazism. Man, you guys be very careful what you guys ingest.
Sight, a precious gift we can't take for granted. Our eyes are windows to the wonders of the world. All we know and love, experience and discover, ponder and cherish. Let's peer into the workings of the eye. Regulate the entry and focusing of light. In today's world, the eye's surface is constantly challenged to protect itself and adjust to changing conditions. Impurities to maintain.
Anyway, that just shows just the magnificent design of your eye. Now, here we go. I'm going to talk to you guys about just a few ways of how people get fooled. Okay, talk about propaganda and explain to you how Sigmund Freud, his nephew Edward Bernays. Sigmund Freud he basically launched psychology. He created psychology. Okay, and everybody's heard that name, like Freudian slip. Okay, they use that term a lot. But basically, Freud diagnosed the human mind and its behavior, and basically, his nephew Edward Bernays was adamantly reading Sigmund Freud's material, and Edward Bernays is the father of propaganda, or public relations, I should say, which is just a form of propaganda. And he started women smoking cigarettes and got men smoking cigarettes. He helped the U.S. sell war, unjustified wars. I mean, the guy was just totally evil. Look up Edward Bernays, or go watch. Oh man, all these documentaries. I'm starting to lose it. Anyway, go watch all the documentaries. But anyway, so this what I'm going to warn you guys of in these next series is just how people manipulate the mind to basically, because God calls us sheep, and that's because sheep aren't the brightest, and they will follow their shepherd. And so again, what shepherd are you going to follow? Jesus Christ, God, or Satan? And these people will use human beings and rape them for their money, sell them crap because they're under satanic influence. But this piece of propaganda right here is called the common man propaganda, which is the product we're going to sell you is for the common man. The common man loves us, and they'll lace in humor, silliness, goofiness, or whatever. But watch this. It goes from a guy who is a skier to all of a sudden a golfer to all of a sudden a guy on a beach. Okay, so this is called the common man form of propaganda.
I'm a man. And I smell like a man. But sometimes I like to smell like a different smelling man. Point is, men need a variety of scents. So Old Spice makes a variety of scents. But I don't use them.
Because I'm a woman.
Just kidding. I'm not a woman. I use all of them. Because I'm a man.
This next one is repetition. It's repetition. So like Geico, the Progressive Lady, they'll use their mascot over and over and over again, and their little silly fashions, create a character, and it's just repetition, and people will then attach onto that character, and it gets stuck in their head. The same thing with melodies, that you watch, melodies that get stuck in your head.
باندا ما يتقلهاش لا.
صباح الخير يا استاذ طفي. يلا يلا عشان الفطور. جايبه لك النهارده سندوتشات جبنه.
لا والله ماليش نفس.
Just you know why you and I will buy you and
This is basically tugging on the heartstrings, okay? This is bandwagon. This is, everybody's doing it. This is where a lot of kids and teenagers fall in the category where, everybody wants to bleach their hair like Eminem or Fred Durst, that they should go ahead and do that. Or, Eminem and his violence and his hatred towards his parents, he's for it and everybody thinks that's popular. I'm going to rebel against my parents. Look at Disney. We just got done talking about Disney, in multiple videos. It's called jumping on the bandwagon.
You're a whole new generation. You're loving what they do. I put a Pepsi in the motion, and that choice is up to you. Hey, you're the Pepsi generation. 'Cause I'm down and taste the thrill of the day, and feel the Pepsi way.
This is a testimony. I mean, have you seen the different commercials that have fake testimonies, or they'll grab people on the streets and then basically they'll pay actors even. Let's just stick with that. They'll pay actors to be in a commercial, and the actors will act like they're normal people, and they'll say, "This is the best. I mean, me and my family have this car insurance, and I'm just telling you right now, I'll never go anywhere else." And so it's it's selling a crappy product through testimonials.
Gosh, anyway, I have no idea what is keeping him. I mean, he said something about a wardrobe issue, but I have no idea what that means.
It means, Donna, that here at Pearson Spector, we go the extra mile for our clients.
You really shouldn't have.
Oh, no, it's cool. I wanted to. Just for you. Check it.
Suits returns to USA Network.
This historical...
This is Arnold Schwarzenegger, a transfer, the transfer effect. Basically, somebody who is doing filthy Hollywood films. Like, here, I'll show you guys. People forget that he was in a movie where he was giving birth to a baby. Arnold Schwarzenegger primed the pump. He primed the pump for the transgenderism and all that weird stuff about how women can turn into men and then men can give birth to babies. Okay, he was part of that. And all the filthy movies he was in, well, as soon as he wanted to become governor, he then was all about the public. I'm out here for you. I will do this for you. So it's kind of like, it's called a transfer. So Nelson, the Rockefeller family was great at it. When people were mad at the Rockefellers for mistreating the people that were working for him during the coal industrial revolution, look up the Wobblies and look up Nelson Rockefeller in the coal industry. And basically, people were saying, listen, you're enslaving us in these rural areas where we're stuck here. We're in the houses that you have, and we're buying the goods from your company store, and we're stuck here. We're living in hell. And instead of appeasing the people and saying, hey, listen, I'm mistreating you, he didn't. He actually hired his own security force to control people with the barrel of a gun. Okay, and also use the government and lobby firms and stuff like that. Anyway, just look it up, the Wobblies and Nelson Rockefeller and the tragedies that have happened. And so in order for the people that were protesting against the Rockefellers for mistreating people, he would then just shovel $100 million or $10-20 million in these different charitable organizations, and everybody soon forgot about it and was like, oh, he's a good person. He just gave $10 million to the Forest Conservatory. The woodpeckers need saving. Oh, what a good guy. So they would do that kind of stuff. Or Warren Buffett, actually, this is another ploy. The Rockefellers, they would take ice cream. They would actually, because they had a bad reputation. One of the guys who were doing PR was like, hold a baby and we'll take a picture of you holding the baby. And they do this with politicians, holding the baby and kissing the baby. And, that's like right there, that's take a bunch of pictures of that and flood the internet with it. So then when you see a president kissing a baby, it's like, I'm not mad at you for going to war and killing our soldiers. You kissed a baby. Or they'll, Warren Buffett, he'll be eating ice cream all the time. Warren Buffett is like vicious, He's an old man. He's eating ice cream. Who doesn't love ice cream? In fact, I'm hungry for a McDonald's cone now. A 99-cent cone at McDonald's. Warren Buffett's a good guy. Come on, let's go get ice cream, And this is just how people are wired to think instead of really like looking at what's happening. Anyway, so this is the transfer effect. Arnold Schwarzenegger, all of a sudden now he's for the American people. Arnold's all for the American people. I'm for you, not to be a Terminator. I'm no Terminator now.
Working hard, raising our families and paying taxes. But the politicians are not doing their job. We can do better than that. After all, we are California, always at the forefront of innovation. Our farm products feed the world, and our technology is second to none. I'm running for governor to lead a movement for change and give California back its future.
Wow. Look at that. Go watch this, okay? Go watch Arnold Schwarzenegger, Hollywood's alpha male. The guy was terrible to women, okay? He has Nazi sympathies. I mean, just go watch the documentary. The guy's an awful person. but now he's working for California because now he wants technology that is going to give people better jobs. Vote for Arnold. I know that that's old, but he's still around. Don't forget the Terminator movies. Okay, and this is the strong women form of propaganda. Right here.
When I was
The
growing
feminist
up,
type movement.
girls just didn't run in public.
No one on my all-boys team would pass to me.
Dad told me I couldn't be a boxer. He said I was too small.
There was a guy who tried to spit on me and then push me out of his way.
There comes a point where you have to be sure of yourself. People aren't used to women being so passionate. It scares them.
One day, I just said it doesn't matter what other people think.
I'm a fashion model who can dunk.
I'm a girl. That doesn't mean I have to wear a skirt.
Doesn't mean I can't get all fired up. They used to say that girl is crazy.
But then I just kept winning.
I didn't set out to dominate.
This is about humanizing technology, okay? That transhumanism, right? They want to merge people with technology, so it's all about humanizing technology. It's now it's an actual being, right? It has a soul, okay?
Emma.
Nouveau le trèfle maxifère, vraiment plus large.
Anyway, so just watch out for that kind of stuff. Oh, this is getting longer than I was expecting, but I think this is very, very important. Now, let's talk about Scientology and the occult. Okay, now people will say, oh, movies don't change you. There's no evil stuff in propaganda and this, that, and the other. It can't change you. Oh, absolutely it can. And these people know it, and they enjoy making you all believe that Satan is not real. They enjoy it. That's Satan's greatest ploy, is to make people believe he's not real. Okay? So we went, for the new documentary that we're going to be making on our travels, I believe it's going to be called What is the Secret? And we're going to have multiple series come out. But anyway, one thing is we went to the Church of Scientology, and because I wanted to find out what that building was all about. I wanted to find out what was going on there. And I'm telling you, people, it's bizarre. Okay? People say that there's no Illuminati, that the Illuminati pyramid is not. No, it's totally there. Okay? My wife and I saw it. They had Illuminati pyramids all over the place. They glorified this L. Ron Hubbard guy like he was a god. It was just bizarre. Okay? And I'll put it all in the documentary. But L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the Church of Scientology, the guy was a hardcore Satanist. Okay? He was into demonology. Okay, and Aleister Crowley, he actually read a lot of Aleister Crowley's material, and Aleister Crowley was he was the one that started the 60s and the 70s rebellions, okay, and the guy was he called himself the Beast, 666 the Beast, and he actually taught a lot of Hollywood and a lot of musicians how to tap into their creative energy and to speak with demons that would give them their talents. The strangely true connection between Scientology, the Jet Propulsion Lab, and occult sorcery. One of the weirdest historical confluences you can imagine took place in Pasadena, California, where Arnold wanted to be governor, where he was. There, our darkly handsome young man in chemistry, autodidact, named Jack Pearson, had just made a bundle of money by inventing rocket fuel. Anyway, Parsons used his defense and contract money to convert an old mansion into a group house where residents, including other pagans, artists, scientists, and writers. One of his boarders was a charismatic science fiction author named L. Ron Hubbard, who became Parsons' greatest frenemy, participating in rituals of sex magic with the rocket scientist, sleeping with his girlfriend, and finally absconding him of all of his money. Here's the true story of how Scientology and JPL were conceived by men under the sorcery of Crowley's mystical influence. And a fascinating account of Parsons' life called Sex and Rockets, The Occult World of Jack Parsons. Jack Carter recounts how Parsons claimed to have summoned Satan when he was 13 years old. This is the business partner of L. Ron Hubbard, okay? This experience, which the scientist described as terrifying, was the beginning of a lifelong interest in the occult, an interest that became a fiery passion when he discovered the work of Crowley, pictured to the left, the guy that called himself the Beast. Okay, that's Aleister Crowley. And basically, Parsons and his young girlfriend Beatty, whom had been dating since she was 15, were both smitten immediately by L. Ron Hubbard when the writer moved in with them, a war veteran who told crazy stories and eagerly lapped up Crowley's spiritualism. Hubbard became Parsons' great ally in the scientist's quest to incarnate the goddess Babylon on Earth. Babylon would be a bewitching redhead who would eventually give birth to the Antichrist. In his book about Parsons, Carson described Hubbard and Parsons' joint rituals in great detail. Since Babylon was the central entity raising her, required Parsons to... Anyway, I'm not going to... enough with that. But basically, these people were sick in the head, and L. Ron Hubbard was all about invoking the Antichrist. Okay? All about it. Okay? And basically, they believe that after you get high enough into the high echelons of Scientology, that human beings have been living... Our souls, okay, have been living for 76 billion years, and that it's karma. We constantly have different life cycles through different universes. Sometimes we might have a life as an alien. Sometimes we might have a life as a dog. Sometimes we might have a life as a human being. And the whole entire purpose is for us to evolve to a certain state where we can become godlike and explore the stars. Okay, the guy I was talking to has family that's really high up there, and he says everything you see in the movies, they're working on that technology. Okay? So the whole Iron Man suit, he says, for a matter of fact, he knows that they're working on the Iron Man suit for the military. That's no joke. Okay? So you want to talk about the Illuminati, you want to talk about the one world religion, it is Scientology. Now, they might have a hybridized version of that later on because Scientology is getting such a bad rep, but that's essentially what it is. Demonology. These are two guys talking about Scientology, the history and philosophy and their practices, but I'm not sure if it's going to work here. But essentially, it explains what we're talking about and just the ludicrousy of it, how insane it is. Let me see if I can get here.
And so by the mid-60s, he started declaring people clear. They had reached that plateau. So what does he do next? He puts things beyond that. He moves the goalposts, and he puts new levels that he calls OT, or operating Thetan. So it wasn't enough to reach clear. Now, the Scientologist would tell you that he's made new discoveries. Yeah. Again, the cynic would say, well, how do you charge money if they've finished clear, right? You got to put other things out there to spend money on. So he had to come up with what are in these operating Thetan levels.
You finally reach a point where you're going to get this incredible piece of information about the secret knowledge about the universe and your place in it. Right. And then I heard Leah Remini explain kind of the context of that. She went there, her mother was a higher level than her.
Was created about 4 quadrillion years ago by some Thetans who were bored. And then they got trapped in their own creation. And part of the sort of narrative of Scientology is that eventually we'll be able to cast off these physical bodies and regain those incredible powers that allowed us to actually create the universe.
See, that makes perfect sense from a point of that is a writer's kind of perspective on reality, right? These are narratives that we're creating.
So essentially, L. Ron Hubbard, it's science fiction that there's aliens that own 76 different universes, and that they decided to create mankind, and they imparted a soul into us that's constantly revolving around their different galaxies, and we're going to evolve to a state where we can actually create galaxies and have everlasting life. Look up my Bible study on Genesis 3:5. Go to the Bible studies in YouTube or on liesofthedevil.com and look up Genesis 3:5. That is how Satan is going to manifest himself through the technology that they're trying to accelerate here on Earth. And L. Ron Hubbard is all a part of that. All the occultists, and magicians, it's all a part of building technology so that they can continue to entertain people while they become godlike. Okay, that's what the whole thing's about, and Alex Jones is big time a part of it. Go watch his documentary. I explained to you Alex Jones and all of his alternative news sources. No, the guy is a disinformation agent. He's there to distract people when he himself is saying that he's trying to expose transhumanism. He's a part of it. He wants that kind of stuff. Let's just get right through here because I know it's getting later than I wanted and probably what people have attention spans for. Anyway, there is this UFO. It goes back to UFOs, okay? This David Icke guy who's on Alex Jones' YouTube channel, he believes that this is all a matrix and that creativity and consciousness is the evolution of your soul. And he's leading people away from Christ. But there's all these tricksters that are out there, and it ties back into UFOs. East Texas UFOs. What are UFOs? Catching a fake plane, UFO morphing. And it's all to fool people. And this is one of the videos I want to show you here that's on that channel. And it's all the whole alien conspiracy stuff. People delve into it with Christianity, and they think, oh, it's a Christian thing. No, it's not. It's a very evil thing. Listen to what this guy says.
So the age of Aquarius is it's a 25,000 year cycle, and apparently what the age of Aquarius actually is and where these ancients found this information from or got this information from is planet Earth is a planet where people are raised up, species are raised up. And every 25,000 year cycle is like the cycle needed to bring a new species into enlightenment age, or whatever you want to look at it as. And I never was like a real love and light kind of person. I was a really down to earth, real person. But after experiencing some of this stuff, I have to re-question some of this. Especially, I had a spiritual background, so once I actually got into communication, it kind of clicked.
Anyway, so that video is talking about the age of Aquarius and how when people reach a certain level of evolution and the aliens will come down here and give us more technology to become godlike. And it goes right into Scientology. Aliens aren't real people, okay? It's all in people's heads. You know, they're demons. Okay, your soul, when God says your soul, the electricity, what fires off brains, when you sleep and you have nightmares or whatever, it's because whatever is going on in your soul will go off in your brain. God, His Holy Spirit can dwell in you, and He can actually give you messages while you're sleeping, or demons can. And I'm not saying every single dream is of a demon or of, no. Okay, sometimes it's just the reorganizing of different memories or things that you've seen on TV. This is a great example, okay? Don't do this, but I'm telling you this is real, okay? You watch horror films. Let's just watch a TV series that you've never seen before, okay? And it's like horrific. Watch it for 2-3 nights, and you'll start getting dreams about that horror film or horror series, okay? So these people that are watching aliens and stuff like that, they're going to have, or they're all into these type of ideas. They will start seeing aliens in their sleep, and people will have dreams that are incredibly vivid. I've had these. They're so incredibly vivid, you wake up and you think that actually happened, and then you realize, oh no, that's just a dream, you know? And so people will get caught up in this, and they'll use the alien propaganda for an excuse to get, fame or whatever. Okay, and so demons, aliens are a figment of people's imaginations. They're part of the spiritual world, and they will haunt you, and I mean, that's what they do with people. Anyway, so I got to get going. I got to get dinner, and it's getting quiet around here because it's probably getting ready to be. We're at the tent site, 1,000 Trails at Silver Creek, Washington, and anyway, it's just solemn and quiet, and I'm sure people have been listening to me for an hour and a half, so no. Anyway, I want to end it on this. And I'm going to make a much better production on the soul and the spirit and stuff later, but I just felt from the Lord, tugged from the Lord to get this out there. Romans chapter 12, verse 2, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Okay? If you're not a Christian, ask the Lord Jesus Christ to give you the truth. He'll give you the truth. And stay with us for 30 days, and we will lead you to the truth, which is Jesus Christ, and then he will save you, guaranteed. And you won't have any fear about all this crap that's going on in the world. You'll have total freedom in Christ, and you'll have a very good life. Okay? So I ask you, all those people that have been supporting us, I could name off your names, but some people don't like it. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Thank you for the support. Go to liesofthedevil.com, sign up for the newsletter. We haven't even sent out a newsletter. We got about more than 60 people there that we need to start informing as to what we're doing. But you can go there. You can order tons of DVDs free. We just had an order today that we sent. We have to send it out today. It's probably too late, dang it. But get these and give them out to friends and family. Go evangelize. Make copies of them. You can make your own copies of them, okay? Or send the links, and or splice them up and mix them up and use them for your own videos. And go wake up people. Now's the time to evangelize. Okay, now's the time to go and worship God. It's a great experience. And if you would like to donate, that would be great. It really helps out. But you know what? God is supplying, and he's giving us every need. He's fulfilling every need that we have. And it's just been awesome. Go to liesofthedevil.com, share the links, etc., etc. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. John 8:32, ye shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Guaranteed the truth will make you free.